Well, our correspondent Conor Gillis is at the scene for us. So the morning after the night before, Conor, what are people there saying about what happened last night?
Well, yeah, police here in Northern Ireland are not holding back today after this became the scene of an ugly and violent night. Police here saying that this was racist thuggery, pure and simple. They say there was a degree of planning in all of this and the people involved were intent on stoking division. Let me just talk you through some of the geography here. The evening began last night with a vigil for a girl who was subjected to an alleged sexual assault just a few days ago. That was then hijacked, police say, the authorities here say, by the far right, those in the anti-immigration camp who were intent on stoking fear and alarm here. Police were attacked, houses were attacked, there were missiles thrown, firebombs projected into the air. And the reason that the anti-immigration side of things are playing out here is apparently because two teenagers who are Romanian have appeared in court over that alleged sexual assault, and clearly that will work its way through the courts. But the strength of feeling here in this community was strong last night, and police are absolutely furious at the aftermath here today. Let's take you around the scene here. Let's have a look inside this property. That is the aftermath of some of the masked men that petrol-bombed this block of flats, missiles thrown in there as well. And then if we come back up here and just actually look in, peer in, to what was the living room of one family. In there you can see projectiles, clearly the aftermath of last night. Bins in there, tucked away in the corner is the blanket of a child. You can see children's medicine on the fireplace over there as well. So that gives you a sense as to the community feel here, the folk who were living here as well in all of this. Now, police were questioned in this part of Northern Ireland today around questions of further disorder. Will we see a repeat of the ugly scenes last night? Well, they say there is no specific intelligence to suggest that is happening, but clearly they are tooling up. They're getting more officers in from across this country and even having officers on standby from England and Wales if that is needed. But clearly the strength of feeling here in Northern Ireland today is one of horror after last night's events.
Yeah, and is there worry there, Conor, that this is going to continue? That are they worried about what potentially is going to happen tonight?
Well, clearly this has been hijacked by some on social media. That was a question that was posed to the detectives in that media conference a few hours ago, hijacked by some of the far-right online intent on stoking division. Well, the officers here have been absolutely crystal clear that there is no excuse for any of this. And clearly the girl at the centre of all this, the victim at the centre of this alleged sexual assault, her family are reported to have completely distanced themselves from the activities here last night. But clearly it is a concern from those officers that more may develop in the coming hours, the coming days, and they are intent on getting their message clear that anyone involving themselves in this type of thuggery will be arrested, will be detained and will be brought before the courts.
Jim Allister is the traditional Unionist Voice MP for North Antrim, and he joins us now from Westminster. Jim, what's happening in Ballymena? Why do you think this is happening?
Well, I think the first thing to say is that we all need to remember that at the heart of this tragic story is a 14-year-old girl who was subjected to serious sexual assault. But that is no excuse for the wanton, unwarranted, unwanted violence that was then perpetrated. Last night we had a very peaceful, large demonstration of solidarity with the family of that young girl, and the family were very clear that they wanted it to be peaceful. But sadly, forces that had other agendas to serve initiated violence, which we then saw on our streets. And it's quite appalling. And I do say to them, stop, because this is going to lead to an even more serious situation unless it continues. Now, there's no point in denying that there isn't a racial undertone to what has been bubbling in the streets of Ballymena for some time, because the area of town concerned has been oversubscribed, many of us would say, with immigrants who have come into the town, and that has stoked some tensions, but none of that excuses the violence which was perpetrated. Part of the problem for Northern Ireland is we're an easy touch for migrants of an illegal nature, and not all, of course, are illegal, in that EU citizens from Eastern Europe, right from Romania, and that's what we're talking about in this case, or Bulgaria, have the right of free passage to other EU countries like the EU. So they can come to Dublin in the Irish Republic, and then because the British government insists on no checks on the border into the United Kingdom at the border between Northern Ireland and the Republic, they then have equal free passage into Northern Ireland and onwards, if they wish, into GB. And that's what's been happening for some years, with busloads of some of these migrants arriving in this town and congregating in the area now heavily populated by them. And
what do you make of the Assistant Chief Constable, Ryan Henderson, who we played a short while ago on Sky News, saying quite straightforwardly but that he believes the unrest last night was racist? Not that it had racist undertones, it was racist.
Well, obviously, I think some of the targets were racist, but let's remember the family at the heart of this. You know, the father of the little girl is black. So it's not racist in that sense. The perpetrators are perceived to be from a migrant community, and therefore it's racist potentially in that regard. But this is something that has been bubbling for too long and probably ignored for too long by authorities, allowing a build-up of a migrant population in a densely populated area, in HPOs, and maybe not the level of policing, and certainly not any aspect of integration that you might expect. So none of that excuses violence, but
exactly. I just wanted to come in
does.
on some of those things you said, because you made a number of allegations there. I mean, there's an allegation of a serious sexual assault here against a child. So let's not go any further with identifying anybody. You talked about there being a demonstration of solidarity on the streets. Do you think when there's been a potential crime committed that any kind of public demonstration is really useful?
Well, I think that when a child, above all, is the object of criminality and serious sexual assault, of course that is going to provoke empathy from the community. And I think the couple of thousand people who gathered were there to be empathetic to the family. They weren't there to bring violence, but some thought they would exploit the situation to do that. And my indication to them is that they are not welcome in doing that. It is not wanted in Ballymena. My constituency has suffered enough in times past from violence. We don't want any more. So desist, and I trust that will be heeded, though I fear there are those who are deaf to that call, and if they are, then they rightly face the rigour of the law, just as the perpetrators of the sexual assault must fully face the rigours of the law.